Levin sent for his bailiff, but immediately went off himself to look for him. The bailiff, beaming all over, like everyone that day, in a sheepskin bordered with astrakhan, came out of the barn, twisting a bit of straw in his hands. Why isn't the carpenter at the thrashing machine? Oh, I meant to tell you yesterday, the harrows want repairing. Here it's time they got to work in the fields. But what were they doing in the winter, then? But what did you want the carpenter for? Where are the hurdles for the calf's paddock? I ordered them to be got ready. What would you have with those peasants? Said the bailiff, with a wave of his hand. It's not those peasants but this bailiff, said Levin, getting angry. Why, what do I keep you for? He cried. But, bethinking himself that this would not help matters, he stopped short in the middle of a sentence, and merely sighed. Well, what do you say? Can sewing begin? He asked, after a pause. Behind Turkin tomorrow or the next day they might begin. And the clover? I've sent Vasily and Mishka, they're sewing. Only I don't know if they'll manage to get through, it's so slushy. How many acres? About 15. Why not sow all? Cried Levin. That they were only sowing the clover on 15 acres, not on all the 45, was still more annoying to him. Clover, as he knew, both from books and from his own experience, never did well except when it was sown as early as possible, almost in the snow. And yet Levin could never get this done. There's no one to send. What would you have with such a set of peasants? 3 haven't turned up. And there's Semyon. Well, you should have taken some men from the thatching. And so I have, as it is. Where are the peasants, then? 5 are making compote, which meant compost, 4 are shifting the oats for fear of a touch of mildew, Konstantin Dmitrovich. Levin knew very well that a touch of mildew meant that his English seed oats were already ruined. Again they had not done as he had ordered. Why, but I told you during Lent to put in pipes, he cried. Don't put yourself out, we shall get it all done in time. Levin waved his hand angrily, went into the granary to glance at the oats, and then to the stable. The oats were not yet spoiled. But the peasants were carrying the oats in spades when they might simply let them slide down into the lower granary, and arranging for this to be done, and taking 2 workmen from there for sowing clover, Levin got over his vexation with the bailiff. Indeed, it was such a lovely day that one could not be angry. Ignat! He called to the coachman, who, with his sleeves tucked up, was washing the carriage wheels, "Saddle me." "Which, sir?" "Well, let it be Kolpik." "Yes, sir." While they were saddling his horse, Levin again called up the bailiff, who was hanging about in sight, to make it up with him, and began talking to him about the spring operations before them, and his plans for the farm. The wagons were to begin carting manure earlier, so as to get all done before the early mowing. And the plowing of the further land to go on without a break so as to let it ripen lying fallow. And the mowing to be all done by hired labor, not on half profits. The bailiff listened attentively, and obviously made an effort to approve of his employer's projects. But still he had that look Levin knew so well that always irritated him, a look of hopelessness and despondency. That look said, "That's all very well, but as God wills." Nothing mortified Levin so much as that tone. But it was the tone common to all the bailiffs he had ever had. They had all taken up that attitude to his plans, and so now he was not angered by it, but mortified, and felt all the more roused to struggle against this, as it seemed, elemental force continually raged against him, for which he could find no other expression than as God wills. "If we can manage it, Konstantin Dmitrovich," said the bailiff. "Why ever shouldn't you manage it? We positively must have another 15 laborers. And they don't turn up. There were some here today asking 70 rubles for the summer." Levin was silent. Again he was brought face to face with that opposing force. He knew that however much they tried, they could not hire more than 37 perhaps or 38 laborers for a reasonable sum. Some 40 had been taken on, and there were no more. But still he could not help struggling against it. "Send to Suri, to Chafirovka, if they don't come we must look for them." "Oh, I'll send, to be sure," said Vasily Fedorovitch despondently. But there are the horses, too, they're not good for much.